Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare. It looks pretty. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this morning we'll hear from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3. Chapter 25, The Glories of Devotional Service, Text 1. Kicking it off. Śaunaka uvāca, kapilas tattva-saṅkhyātā, bhagavān ātma-māyayā, jātaḥ svayam ajaḥ sākṣād, ātma-prajñaptaye nṛṇām, kapilas tattva-saṅkhyātā, bhagavān ātma-māyayā, jātaḥ svayam ajaḥ sākṣād, ātma-prajñaptaye nṛṇām, kapilas tattva-saṅkhyātā, bhagavān ātma-māyayā, jātaḥ svayam ajaḥ sākṣād, ātma-prajñaptaye nṛṇām. Others, please. Any Vaishnava?
Śaunaka uvāca kapilas tattva-saṅkhyātā bhagavān ātma-māyayā yata sarva ajaḥ sākṣād ātma-prajñaptaye nṛṇām.
Any Vaishnavis?
Śaunaka uvāca kapilas tattva-saṅkhyātā bhagavān ātma-māyayā jātaḥ sākṣād ātma-prajñaptaye nṛṇām. uvāca kapilas tattva-saṅkhyātā bhagavān ātma-māyayā jātaḥ svayam sākṣād ātma-prajñaptaye nṛṇām.
Anyone else? Word to word. Śaunaka uvāca. Śrī Śaunaka said, Kapila, Lord Kapila, tattva of the truth, saṅkhyātā, the expounder, bhagavān, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, ātma-māyayā, by his internal potency, jātaḥ, took birth, svayam, himself, ajaḥ, unborn, sākṣāt, in person, ātma-prajñaptaye, to disseminate transcendental knowledge, nṛṇām, for the human race. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Śrī Śaunaka said, although he's unborn, the Supreme Personality of Godhead took birth as Kapila Muni by his internal potency. He descended to disseminate transcendental knowledge for the benefit of the whole human race. Responsibly, please. Oops. Śrī Śaunaka said, although he is unborn, the Supreme Personality of Godhead took birth as Kapila Muni by his internal potency. He descended to disseminate transcendental knowledge for the benefit of the whole human race. Srila Prabhupada's purport. The word ātma-prajñaptaye indicates that the Lord descends for the benefit of the human race to give transcendental knowledge. Materials and necessities are quite sufficiently provided for in Vedic knowledge, which offers a program for good living conditions and gradual elevation to the platform of goodness. In the mode of goodness, one's knowledge expands. On the platform of passion, there's no knowledge, for passion is simply an impetus to enjoy material benefits. On the platform of ignorance, there's no knowledge and no enjoyment, but simply life almost like that of the animals. The Vedas are meant to elevate one from the mode of ignorance to the platform of goodness. When one is situated in the mode of goodness, he is able to understand knowledge of the self, or transcendental knowledge. This knowledge cannot be appreciated by any ordinary man. Therefore, since a disciplic succession is required, this knowledge is expounded either by the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself or by his bona fide devotee. Śaunaka Muni also states here that Kapila, the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, took birth or appeared, simply to appreciate and disseminate transcendental knowledge. Simply to understand that one is not matter but spirit soul, aham brahmasmi, I'm by nature Brahman, is not sufficient knowledge for understanding the self and his activities. One must be situated in the activities of Brahman. Knowledge of those activities is explained by the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. Such transcendental knowledge can be appreciated by humans in human society, but not in animal society, as clearly indicated here by the word nṛṇām, for the human beings. Human beings are meant for regulated life. By nature, there is regulation in animal life also, but that is not like the regulative life as described in the scriptures or by the authorities. Human life is regulated life, not animal life. In regulated life only can one understand transcendental knowledge. Om Ajnanatimidandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Mukhaṁ karoti vācalam pangum langhayate girim jatkripa tamahang bande Shri Gurun dinataranam Shri Chaitanya manobhishtam stapitam yena bhutale svayam rupa kadama yang dadati svapadantikam. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Chapatitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Śaunakaḥ uvāca kapilas tattva-saṅkhyātā bhagavān ātma-māyayā jātaḥ svayam ajaḥ sākṣād ātma-prajñaptaye nṛṇām. Śrī Śaunaka said, although he is unborn, the Supreme Personality of Godhead took birth as Kapila Muni by his internal potency. He descended to disseminate transcendental knowledge for the benefit of the whole human race. So I can see the clock before the hook comes. There's great danger here today. The title of this chapter makes me want to talk about one of the posts that I pound on most frequently. I'll try to do so very briefly because there are some other points to make, and I want to leave a few minutes at the end to read about Bhakreshwar Pandit, an intimate associate of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's, whose Tirobhava, or the anniversary of his disappearance, we are observing today. So, one big thing here is that Lord Kapila took birth by his own internal potency. His birth isn't like ours. His appearance in this world, Srila Prabhupada says, he took birth or appeared in his purport. His birth isn't like our birth. Our birth is forced on us by our karma. And it's painful. It's traumatic. It's traumatic for the mother. It's traumatic for the child, as we know. It's traumatic. Well, my experience is it's traumatic for the father too. It's a huge experience, and once it's done, there's this enormous, at least for the husband. I think there was also some sense of relief for the mother, although she's really generally pretty exhausted sometimes. But Kapila, the birth that the Lord takes isn't at all like that. And our business as bhakti yogis is to try to actually understand that. Krishna himself says in the 4th chapter of the Gita, Janma karma cha me divyam evang yo veti tattvata tyaktva deham punar janma naiti mam eti sorjuna. That if someone actually actually understands in truth the actual nature of the Lord's appearance and his activities, and again he uses the word janma, birth, that's the platform of liberation. If we actually understand the transcendental nature of the Lord's appearance, he appears out of his own will. He's a swarat. He's completely independent. And he can do whatever he likes, however he likes. So his appearance in this world's not an ordinary thing. It's not like my birth or your birth. And he appears for a particular purpose, to deliver the pious, to dispatch the miscreants. But we also hear in Srila Prabhupada's purport, I really like this, I'll show you, I highlighted the word appreciate. He says that Lord Kapila comes to appreciate and disseminate transcendental knowledge. Now, this is a word I wish I had noticed decades ago and had been able to ask Srila Prabhupada about, because it just really fascinates me. That Lord Kapila came to not just to disseminate bhakti yoga, but to appreciate bhakti yoga. And so here I come with my hammer and my mallet and my post. Bhakti is something categorically different from absolutely everything else. It's the real business of human life. Those who are very fortunate, the Bhagavatam describes them as ati bhagya. Ati is an intensifier. It means too much. So someone who's excessively fortunate comes in contact with bhakti by the grace of Bhakti Devi and her agents. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains in Madhurya Kadambini that Bhakti Devi is every bit as independent as Krishna, and therefore she can appear wherever she likes. She can do as she likes. But she chooses to appear in our hearts in a particular way through the agency of those who have taken shelter of her, those who have allowed them into their hearts, and who have an inclination to share that. We call it preaching. But sometimes I think, what do we really do when we're preaching? All we have, the only opportunity we have, is to share whatever bhakti, or lacking that, whatever shraddha, whatever faith in bhakti we might have with others. I don't have anything other than that. My friend Ashesha Gaurahari, and I don't know if anybody knows Ashesha Gaurahari, he has one of the most analytical minds I've ever encountered. He can't let anything go. And we were talking about this yesterday, about what is preaching, and he says, maybe I'm a smart guy, but I'm not going to be able to convince anybody to take to bhakti in a conversation by my argument. So all we can do is be really honest and share whatever shraddha, whatever faith we have in bhakti. And by shraddha, by faith, we're not talking about mere belief. According to Chaitanya Charitamrita, what we call shraddha means sudhrita vishvasa. It means very firm conviction. Dhrita means firm. Sudhrita, another intensifier in this context. Very firm conviction. In what? That simply by engaging in Krishna Bhakti, anything else I might want to accomplish will be taken care of. It's all covered. So whatever actual faith we have in Bhakti, that's what we have to share with people. Whatever appreciation we have for Bhakti, that's what we can share. That's what we can disseminate. And we call that preaching. It's really connection through the heart. There's a Sufi saying, my friend Satyaraj has this as part of the signature on his emails. Goes something like, whatever is spoken from the tongue goes no further than the ear, but whatever is spoken from the heart goes, pierces the hearing and enters the heart, something like that. So that's what we really want. We really want faith in bhakti. And where do you get that kind of very firm conviction, sudhrita vishvasa? From experience. Which means, as we engage in bhakti, we should pay attention to the things that we experience as we engage in bhakti. 3 things should happen, according to, can never remember which of the Navyogendras spoke which, answered which questions. Yes? Okay. Okay, now that's going to creep me out. So one of the Navyogendras told King Nimi that 3 things should happen simultaneously and progressively as we engage in devotional service. I'm so nervous I'm drawing a blank. But go ahead, get me started. So 3 things. Bhakti, which is inherent in the activity itself. Pareshanobhava, some direct experience of the Lord. And it doesn't have to mean you've got some sporty, or that you, I remember 50 some odd years ago, 54, 55 years ago, seeing Krishna everywhere. I was thinking, okay, so these little pillars in our temple room, should I see little, 4-armed Vishnus or dancing Tribhanga Krishnas in there? That's not exactly what we're looking for when we talk about direct experience of the Lord. It can be something as simple as appreciating a really good kirtan or a really good discourse on the Bhagavad or the Gita, or some nice prasadam, or the company of devotees. That's also experience of the Lord. And then the third thing that should happen should be viraktiranyatra, the complete detachment from everything else. And the sage, I think it's Havi or Kavi, gives an analogy. He says these 3 things should happen naturally as we engage in devotional service, just as when we eat a meal. 3 things happen simultaneously and progressively. Tushti, pushti, kshurapaya. So tushti means pleasure, pushti means nourishment, and kshurapaya, which is analogous with detachment from everything else in bhakti, means satisfaction of our hunger. And he says this begins from the Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in his commentary on this verse, says that this begins with the very first morsel of rice. That this pleasure, the nourishment, and relief from hunger, it progresses, it grows as we take the meal. And then he points out a flaw in that analogy. He ends by pointing out this flaw in the analogy. He says, you can't keep eating forever, but you can keep on serving. So that experience of that bhakti that you feel, that direct experience of the Lord, and that detachment from anything else, those things can grow forever, infinitely. Should. So when I say bhakti is categorically different from anything else, I find support in the first canto of the Bhagavatam, in the 5th chapter. We know that in this 5th chapter, this is Narada Muni encountering Srila Vyasadeva in the throes of bewilderment. I mean, he's completely depressed, dejected, because he's done all this work. He's compiled all these literatures for the upliftment of human society, and he still feels unfulfilled. And he's wondering, I mean, did I Miss Bhakti? So Narada Muni, as he is wont to do, shows up on the scene. Whenever there's an opportunity to stir things up, you can kind of expect Narada Muni to show up. And he tells him, yes. Excuse me. Everything that you've done, to the as nice as it is in its way, is ultimately, anybody know the word? This is one of my, yes? Bhagavāti's been to one of my classes before. Jugupsitam, condemnable, disgusting, detestable. And then he compares every literature other than Srimad Bhagavatam to what? Place of pilgrimage for crows. What's a place of pilgrimage for crows? It's the dump, where the garbage is thrown out. And what literature is he talking about? He's talking about the Vedas. He's talking about the itihasas. They're nice as far as they go, but what they're missing is exclusive glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his devotional service. And that's what Kapila Deva is about to reveal to his mother in this chapter. So in that 5th chapter, Narada Muni draws a very clear distinction between bhakti and absolutely everything else. And he does this in verses 17 and 19 especially. So verse 17, a little more familiar than 19. Prabhupada cited this verse more often. Tyaktva swadharmam sharanambujam harer bhajanna pakvo tapatet yato yadi. Yatakva babhadram abhudamushikim go kovarta apto bhajatam svadharmata. This is one who has forsaken his material occupations to engage in the devotional service of the Lord may sometimes fall down while in an immature stage. Yet there is no danger of his being unsuccessful. On the other hand, a non-devotee, though fully engaged in occupational duties, does not gain anything. And then in 19, he says, Navaijano jatu katanchana virgin mukunda sevyan vayarangra samsutim. Smaran mukundankri upaguhanam punara vihatu michen naraso graho janaha. He says, my dear Vyas, even though a devotee of Lord Krishna sometimes falls down somehow or other, he certainly does not undergo material existence like others, the fruitive workers, etc. Because a person who has once relished the taste of the lotus feet of the Lord can do nothing but remember that taste again and again. And I have a whole thing that I usually do with these verses, which includes reading Srila Prabhupada's purport and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary. But the thing here that makes it impossible for the devotee, even if they give up their practice for some time, Srila Prabhupada says because of bad association, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says because of poor determination. I think the two things go fist in glove, hand in glove. So even if that happens, there's no chance of that devotee's being unsuccessful. Why? Because he is rasagraha. Prabhupada says he can do nothing but remember that ecstasy again and again. That's a really soft way of saying haunted by rasa. As if by a ghost, Vishwanath says, that we can't shake. And so even if there's some falling away from the path of bhakti because of poor determination and uncongenial association or whatever, still that devotee will eventually complete their course of bhakti yoga and attain the Lord's lotus feet. Those lotus feet that have been haunting him or her for so many lifetimes, because they can't forget. Vishwanath says, even if you find yourself in that position, still you're always remembering the bliss that you enjoyed by serving the Lord. Or maybe or, you're remembering the pain you have to endure by not serving the Lord. And eventually you just say, okay, I'm going to buckle down and become very serious. So this is the unique feature of bhakti. And I particularly enjoyed when Swavas was saying the Prema Dhvani, he said, Srimati Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, really setting her aside. Sometimes we say Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Sometimes I hear people say Srimati Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai or something like that, kind of fusing them, which I find confusing. But he said Srimati Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, and I said, I just thought Ki Jai. Because she's unique. We hear Srila Jiva Goswami cites a verse from the Shruti. So this is a Vedic text that tells us that bhakti alone has the power to draw us near to Krishna. Bhakti evainam nayati. Bhakti evainam darshayati. Bhakti alone has the power to show us Krishna. Bhakti alone has the power to overcome Krishna, to control Krishna. Therefore, this verse says, bhakti is the greatest thing of all. And we see this in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. We see it in the Bhagavatam, that especially Prema Bhakti, although Jiva Goswami argues in his Bhakti Sandarbha that even sadhana bhakti has some power to control Krishna. And he uses, I think, 6.5 of the 7 verses in the 2nd chapter of the Bhagavatam that kind of describe the 9 stages of bhakti. And he says that even in sadhana bhakti, Vishwanath says in his purport, in his commentary on 1.5.19, that this being haunted by rasa, it's not something that's reserved for higher stages like asakti or bhava bhakti. He says it begins from the very first day of serving the Lord. And he uses that Bhagavatam verse as his evidence. And so bhakti has this, so Jiva argues in his Bhakti Sandarbha, using these verses from the 2nd chapter of the Bhagavatam to show that it's, when we're talking about having at least some power to control Krishna, that includes sadhana bhakti. And he concludes by saying, otherwise, how could we explain that the Lord has to give bhava bhakti to the sadhaka? If the sadhana bhakti, it's not the bhakta that's controlling the Lord, it's the bhakti. It's the love. What does he say in the Gita? Patram pushpam palam toyam yome bhaktya prayachati. If you offer me even something as simple as a leaf of flower or fruit or water, if you offer it with bhakti, and he uses bhakti twice in that verse, I'll accept it, because that's what he's missing. This is the guy who has everything, right? So what is there that we can give him? The one thing he doesn't have, and that's our heart, that's our love. So our business is to actually try to understand, try to appreciate the transcendental nature of the Lord's birth and activities, and the transcendental nature of his devotional service. That is liberation. Okay. I'm going to stop. Oh gosh, I'm already in trouble. So, I'm just going to share one verse and purport about Vakreshwar Pandit, because this is where we get a sense of who he is. So this is in chapter 10 of Adi Leela. So Krishnadas Kaviraj is describing the tree of Chaitanya Bhakti. So he says, Vakreshwar Pandit Prabhur Bharapriya Bhaktya Ekabhavi Chabisha Prahara Jamranutya. Vakreshwar Pandit, the 5th branch of the tree, was a very dear servant of Lord Chaitanya's. He could dance with constant ecstasy for 72 hours. Srila Prabhupada writes in his purport, in the Gauraganodeshtipika, it is stated that Vakreshwar Pandit was an incarnation of Aniruddha, one of the quadruple expansions of Vishnu, Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Aniruddha, and Pradyumna. He could dance wonderfully for 72 continuous hours. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu played in dramatic performances in the house of Srivas Pandit, Vakreshwar Pandit was one of the chief dancers, and he danced continuously for that length of time, 3 days solid. Sri Govinda Das, an Oriya devotee of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, has described the life of Vakreshwar Pandit in his book, Gaura Krishnodaya. There are many disciples of Vakreshwar Pandit in Orissa, and they are known as Gaudiya Vaishnavas, although they are Odiyas. Among these are Sri Gopal Guru and his disciple, Sri Dhyan Chandra Goswami. So that's just a little bit about Vakreshwar Pandit. May we be inspired by him to dance again in kirtan. You get as old and creaky as I am, it's a little problematic. Even if you want to dance, it's like I had this, I did the last class of these 3 courses that I've been taking with my god sister Ramboru, her Karuna Care initiative. And I felt so much energy. I thought, I need to jump. I went out for a walk, just a quick walk, 1 round. But what I really needed to do was just jump around and dance. And it ain't going to work. I would have had to been carried here for Guru Puja. So, I thought the better of it, and I'm going to probably get in a longer walk later today. But may we take inspiration from Vakreshwar Pandit to chant, to dance as ecstatically as we can for the pleasure of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Any quick comments, questions? Yes?
Helpful for my service, thank you. But that it's difficult for me to find the determination to do those things, and I wonder at what point are those signs from Paramatma that it's not necessary to do this, or is it always, what is easier we should follow, or sometimes is it worth like really fighting to gather determination for something?
Thank you. For the question. It's an important question. How, where do we find the determination? These 3 things especially are particularly valuable for devotees. Utsaha, Nischaya, Dhairya. There are 3 others, but I was really heartened a couple of months ago when Bir Krishna Goswami visited Honolulu, and he focused on these 3 as well. Utsahat, Nischayat, and Dhairya. Enthusiasm, persistence, determination, confidence, and patience. So patience is also very important. We might be thinking, I've been chanting 16 rounds for 3.5 weeks. Where's that spurti? Where's that vision of Krishna? Krishna hasn't come with Radharani and invited me into the rasa dance yet. We need to be a little patient because we have a lot to work through. We read in the Nectar of Devotion and the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that one of the symptoms, the first of the symptoms that's discussed is kleshagni of pure devotional service. And this becomes prominent even in the stage of sadhana bhakti, and Prabhupada characterizes it in the Nectar of Devotion as immediate relief from all kinds of material distress. Where's the immediate relief? I'm hoping that nobody's watching when I get up from this seat, because it's going to be a moment of suffering. So where's the immediate relief? And the acharyas explain that it's like you take a stack of lotus leaves and you pierce that stack of lotus leaves with a needle. It appears, from one perspective, that the needle pierces them all simultaneously, immediately. But if you slow-mo it, you'll see that the tip of that needle goes through each lotus leaf individually and progressively. So some patience is always helpful as well. Also, consulting with our spiritual master, if that's possible. And we always have the association of devotees. There are always devotees whom we can consult with. This is a great gift that Srila Prabhupada brought, this association of devotees. He tells us in the Nectar of Instruction that he created the International Society for Krishna Consciousness to create the opportunity for us to engage in these 6 exchanges of love among the devotees. That's really what we're about. And if you look at the 7 purposes, that's really what it's all about. To bring us together so that we can encourage each other in growing our bhakti. So, we listen to the extent we're able to hear to the Super Soul, but we also have devotees that we can consult with to help us gain that determination. It's of those 6 things, it's the first. It's listed. Utsaha. The second actually. The determination, confidence. I will do it. Think of the little engine that could? I know I can. Because that's how powerful bhakti is. Not because I'm so cool, but because Bhakti Devi is very powerful. And the devotees who preach, Vishwanath says, Krishna has made them agents of his Kripa Shakti. So if we take shelter of bhakti, we take shelter of the devotees, we take shelter of our spiritual masters, then we know we can. So we'll just keep going. And there'll be little mistakes and tweaks and things along the way. That's natural. That's a good thing, especially that we notice them. Does that help at all? Thank you. Oh, well, I only mentioned the first 3. Those are the ones that I usually focus on. Utsahan nischaya dhayaya tatat karma pravartanat. Okay, now it's running. Someone finish the verse for me? Yeah, the association of devotees is also one of those things. And giving up the association of non-devotees whose business is to distract us from Krishna. Which is really hard when we're completely swimming in an ocean of advertising and all kinds of terrible sound vibrations in the ether. Bhagavāti Prabhu.
Yeah, thank you, Maharaj. In the Nectar of Devotion, it says that devotional service is not an activity of the material world, it's directly under the control of Radharani. And then it goes on to say, in the Bhagavad Gita, it is confirmed that the Mahatmas or great souls are under the protection of Daivi Prakriti, Kama, the internal energy, Radharani. And it concludes by saying, so being directly under the control of the internal potency of Krishna, devotional service attracts even Krishna himself. So you're talking about bhakti throughout the class. Is bhakti anything different than Radharani?
I don't think so. That's something I'm in the process of working out because I have a writing project focused on that. My understanding is that Bhakti Devi is Radha. But there's also a personification of Bhakti Devi that may be a little different from Radharani. But my understanding is that taking shelter of bhakti, what is there more powerful than Krishna? Who is there that can control Krishna other than Radharani? Who else can have him go whimpering to Subal with tears welling up in his eyes because she was a little huffy with him for a moment, and have Krishna questioning the purpose of life because Radharani's a little put out with him. There's no one more powerful. We talk about Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. My friend Sundarananda in Honolulu sometimes, quite frequently, will talk about Almighty God. But even more mighty than Almighty God is Bhakti Devi, Srimati Radharani, because she has the power to cow even him. Is that okay? I don't have a better answer than that yet, but I'm working on it. Anything else Oh, I'm going to beat the reaper. Thank you so much for your attention. Grantha Raja Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai.